Welcome to today's webinar. CEG utilizes collective data to manage their fleet and parts inventory while integrating with FuelMaster, Voyager, and Verizon Connect, presented by Collective Data. I'm Kendra Rodriguez, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. I encourage you to ask questions during the webinar at any point, and we will try to address them all. However, if we do not get to yours, don't worry, you will be contacted by email with the response after the event. Our presenters today are Derek Siddell, Sales Development Representative at Collective Data, and Craig Crabtree, Manager Facility Operations with Citizens Energy Group. Now, I'll hand it over to Derek.
Hey everyone, it's Derek Siddell with Collective Data. Thanks for everyone for attending this afternoon. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to have you all here today, and with Crit here kind of talking about their success utilizing collective data. So I want to kind of go ahead and just jump in right away into today's agenda here. Of course, you've got us two here. Some of the things we're going to talk about is we're going to dive a little bit more into who is CEG, Citizens Energy Group, some of the challenges they faced before getting a fleet management solution, how they came to choosing collective data, and then of course, what were some of these features and pieces and components to what has made their success with the system. So kind of jumping into this first slide here, Craig, I'm about to turn it over to you here, but I was kind of hoping maybe you could kind of fill us in here in the audience and tell us a little bit about CEG, who they are, what kind of vehicles are managed, what does your staff look like, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about CEG here?
Thanks, Derek. Craig Crabtree, Citizens Energy Group. Way back in 1887, Indianapolis civic leaders came up with the ideal of operating a natural gas company as a public charitable trust solely for the benefit of the customers and the community. Today, the trust lives as Citizens Energy Group, a broad-based utility service company providing natural gas, thermal energy, water, and wastewater services to about 800,000 people and thousands of businesses in the Indianapolis area. At Citizens Energy Group, our vision is to fulfill the promise of the trust to serve our customers and community with unparalleled excellence and integrity. We currently service the greater Indianapolis area in Indianapolis, Indiana. We operate with approximately, it kind of varies, about 900 to 1,000 pieces of equipment and vehicles. We operate out of multiple locations, service areas in a couple different locations. Our vehicles are pretty much travel the greater Indianapolis area on a daily basis. Some come back nightly, some continue on and go home, back and forth. Back to you, Derek.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, and then just about some of those vehicles and equipment? I'm sure the audience is excited to hear about that. What kind of vehicles or equipment is it you all are primarily tracking or performing routine maintenance and services on?
We have a big kaleidoscope of vehicles that range from sedans all the way up to vac trucks, semi-tractors, heavy-duty Freightliners. There's, I think, every aspect of the vehicle line we have. Equipment-wise, we run from, bobcats to excavators to backhoes, mules, pull-behind blowers, pull-behind generators. About every aspect of the construction world that you could think of, we've at least got one of them.
Sure. That's great to hear. And then I know we'll kind of dive into this a little bit later as part of some of the reporting and other things that are part of your system today. But have you all kind of dived into the electric vehicle world? I know, depending on where you're at in the country, it seems like everyone's at a different spot as far as moving along for electric vehicles. Has your company gotten into that a whole lot yet, or is it still kind of green?
We have not. We're kind of doing the justification to see what fits us best as a company, and what serves our ratepayers the best as far as the decision. So we're kind of in the investigating stages of that. Being a natural gas company, we have had and have some hybrid CNG vehicles in the fleet. So we're kind of just contemplating on what would work best for us in the future.
Sure. No, that totally makes sense. And, a lot of the same similarities and challenges I believe a lot of folks, here can attest to in the audience. So that's definitely great to hear. And I think this might be a good transition into our next slide and, some things to start thinking about here. So I'm going to go to this next slide here, really, that kind of talks about the challenge here. So, before you all, were using collective data, I know there's a lot of challenges, you were facing from, what you shared with me, what your predecessors, had from scattered fleet data, multiple systems, reporting, and then, just looking for that kind of system that's a one-stop shop. So can you kind of just tell us a little bit more, what got you all to, start looking for a new, fleet system?
Well, some of the legacy procedures that were in place was manual spreadsheets, a lot of manual calculations, verbal communication to our operations staff as far as what they need or issues that they would have out in the field, collecting the data as far as oil changes, PMs, service, trying to calculate that on a whole was a very long process because it went to multiple spreadsheets from multiple different years, and then also a replacement program or procedure, trying to develop or see what we had as far as a long-term forecast for replacements was a little bit harder than just basing it off of the age of the year. When you talked about failures or corrective maintenance costs, it was a little hard to put that in one little picture because you had multiple spreadsheets, sources, communications to go back to from multiple different places to try to get into one.
Sure. No, that totally makes sense, and I think we can all agree with this too. Spreadsheets are great, but if multiple people are managing them, they're getting saved left and right. I know personally too, just having my own spreadsheets, they can easily get lost. Computer goes down, they're definitely kind of lost in the dust there. So no, this is all good stuff that, if you don't already have a fleet system and, thinking about it, definitely these are some good things that you're sharing. And it was unfortunate you had those issues, but, again, you definitely found something I think that's going to help you out here. So I think really kind of diving into that next piece here, you really hit on all these different areas. Data was scattered, and talked about those multiple spreadsheets you had. I'm just curious, when you guys were running reports on these spreadsheets, like, how much time do you think you all were spending per week just trying to get the data you needed when maybe it was reporting on replacing a vehicle or, figuring out if you, maybe put too much maintenance in a vehicle?
That honestly, I can't tell you. That was a little hard to answer, as some of that
Sure.
stuff was before me. But as I took the position and we started to dive into things, it was very hard to justify the cost as vehicles started to climb up in price, and not have the justification or the history to explain at the click of a button. So with no history and justification, sometimes it just, you were running it to fail as opposed to being proactive and replacing on a better schedule or program.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. I think we're in a world now where proactive is a lot better than reactive, especially if it's going to save you time and, more importantly, save you money and all that good stuff. So I think this really helps us kind of transition into the next slide here about the solution in place, which of course was collected data here. But why don't you tell us a little bit about some of these things here with what collective data has done for you as far as being implemented, how it's been a central hub, some of these integrations you have from fuel and GPS.
After by going with collective data and being able to utilize to take some of the other fleet systems that we have, like fuel management, fuel credit card information, usage, wear and tear, diagnostic code histories, to take all of those systems and implement or import that data into one system was kind of the main goal for us when we were looking for a fleet management program. Having those possibilities with collective data is kind of where we stood at, and it's proven the multiple flexibility opportunities to take multiple systems, whether it be telematics or fuel master or those other fleet systems, and put them in there and then do your reporting or work orders or inventory control out of one system, basically at the click of a button, has been a major benefit for us.
Absolutely, you're spot on with that. Again, more data you're pulling into one system. I think we can all agree here. You're going to find yourself again spending less time and getting those reports at a much quicker basis, which can sound like a broken record here, but again, if we're saving time, you're saving money. I'm sure a couple are curious about these last 2 points, and maybe kind of hit on it, but I want to just bring them up again. So, security permissions. Tell us a little bit about what kind of success collective data has provided as far as setting up security. I know data is important, making sure folks aren't just going in willy-nilly, but I'm sure there's a big portion of your operations between the technicians, supervisors, and the way you operate. So can you tell us a little bit how the security permissions have really helped your organization strive with the system here?
Well, with having multiple people needing access to certain parts of your fleet management system has been a key part of how we use collective data. Our field operation guys have always had the manual way of just writing a work order, dropping it in a box to transfer the information to our garage partners to say what's broke on a vehicle. They'll park it and they write down, and sometimes those things would be missed, or they would never fill it out, but then it's set out there because nobody knew what was wrong with it. Having the security hierarchy in there to where they can do that remotely via their phone, their tablet, their computer in their truck, and that's the only thing they could do. They don't need to see any other vehicle, so we are able to create a firewall so they can only do maintenance requests, but then those get transferred to the appropriate garage. We have 2 service providers that provide maintenance for us that are located in 2 different locations. Having the vehicles assigned to each one of those and a firewall in between those 2 service providers, so on the backside they only can see things that are assigned to them. They only can provide work orders for vehicles that are in their house. They can't see anything else from the other side as far as pricing, parts inventory, prior maintenance, or anything to that extent. Was a great benefit because it also allows us as the owner to where the person that's allocated the right security clearance, they can go in and they can pull data or they can pull reports that has everything as a whole and see everything together without switching back and forth between 2 different programs or 2 different screens or logging out of something to log back in. It allows us as the owner to see everything on a high level scale, but also keep the multiple layers between maintenance staff, inventory control, and our operations staff separate so they only can see what they need to see on a daily basis.
That's a great point. I think you bring up something, really a huge benefit for, many others that are on this webinar today. I know there's a lot of, government agencies that have a lot of different departments. You think about a city from police, fire, public works, stormwater, all that, and the vehicles they're tracking. So, with you, just what you said, how you've got those 2 different partners and they each have their own data that they're tracking, but, they're able to share a system without even technically realizing it, but being able to have it set up separately so they're seeing their own data. I think that's a huge thing you mentioned there. It could be a great benefit if there are others out there, considering a fleet program that can, help with their needs. And then kind of the last one, and I think it really kind of answered it here, with securities. But, I'm curious, and, again, I'm sure the audience is curious, but as far as the configurability to match, your process, I know we have a lot that kind of goes on in our fleet management system. Is there anything else as far as the configurability of how we've really been able to, capture your needs, whether it's been reports or, additional functionality within the system?
One thing that has been a benefit was being able to tie collective data to our internal Active Directory and single signature sign-on. So as our internal folks, as most people in today's world, you have 4 different logons and a 13-digit password that's a little hard to always type in, especially when you're in a hurry. So being able to bridge that to where when our operation folks, especially in the field, if they're logged on, that click of a button to collective data automatically links to them, does some automatic imports as far as who they are, but allows them to change and isolate some critical boxes on that form that they have to give us some information in, rather than them just putting a vehicle number and hitting send. Creating those primary boxes to tell us what's wrong and the information that we would need to diagnose it right off the bat, as if somebody was walking in and talking to us. That's been a great fit for our need.
That's awesome. So again, I'm hearing some requirements of, when you're logging in, there's some requirements to fill out instead of kind of free-forming it to help streamline process, and then just the ease of signing in. I think we can all agree that so many systems have so many different logins, and the countless time it's making you change passwords every 30 days or every 15. It seems like it's getting shorter and shorter as the years go on. So those are both huge things. I think we can kind of transition to this last piece. I know we've kind of hit on a couple here, so we'll kind of focus on a few. I know you talked a little bit about the fuel integrations. You talked a little bit about the outside contractors entering data and having it set up separately with security, so not everyone's seeing everything, but just their respective systems here. But I think some good call outs here is the cloud-based portion. You mentioned to us guys are able to go out in the field, punch in their phone, and log in and submit tickets and all of that. Why don't we talk just a little bit more about kind of the automation here with PMs and inspections? How is that helping you today in your agency with Citizens Energy Group?
One of the things that we utilize in collective data is the automated generated PMs. It also allows us to tie to our email server to where when a PM is coming due, we can set it up as long as the driver's inputted correctly into that vehicle, to where it would automatically send that driver an email saying, hey, you have a PM coming up in the next 2 weeks, please schedule with the garage, and gives the number. That's been very great, very helpful as far as reminding the driver that something's coming up, rather than us trying to track them down at the last minute, to kind of curve overdue POs or overdue PMs a little bit. Fuel management, as we import that into collective data from a couple different sources, whether it be our bulk fuel or fuel cards, it allows us to capture the complete fuel usage easier per vehicle. One of the biggest things that we like about collective data that we utilize is automatic diagnostic troubles, with integrating telematics into it, and telematics being able to generate a severity level of diagnostic troubles that is imported into collective data, and it gave a priority level there to where it automatically generates work orders to the maintenance garage, or if it's a severe one that needs addressed right away, that's created with a high-level work order, and can be handled as far as where sometimes we've needed to call the driver to say, hey, shut the vehicle off, we're coming out to get it, because of what's going on with it. The reporting side, some of the canned reports have been very beneficial just as far as day-to-day quick knowledge when you get asked a question on why are we spending this much, or what happened, why was this invoice so much. Could you tell me what they found out when we took our truck back and this was wrong? Those quick canned reports have been beneficial, especially to the maintenance staff to look at history of vehicles singly or different groups altogether.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Again, knowledge is power, and having that right at your fingertips, you can tell it's really been a benefit to you to really get anyone the quick access to data that they need and be able to make a decision on. There was one thing I heard you mention earlier that I think it's worth elaborating on a little bit more, and I don't have it listed here on the slide, but I know it's kind of a big topic actually to the head of this webinar. Talk to us about your inventory a little bit. Are you all managing some internal inventory, correct, like oil filters and those kind of things?
Yeah, both maintenance garages have an inventory list for each of them in collective data. So as things, the inventory controls kind of ran through there to where it notifies them that, hey, you only have 2 filters left, or this is your last filter, and it also transfers pricing automatically from what the import into their storeroom in collective data. As they add those to the work orders, it automatically calculates those, so they know when they close out the work order and they add their hours of the maintenance tech, it's all on their cost per work order. There's no manual entry every time of what the oil filter cost, or what the quart of oil cost, or what the tires cost. That is automatically generated through there. Same way if they had to get a third party, whether it be towing a vehicle or different hose repairs or whatever that are done by a third party, they enter those invoices from that third party into the same work order, and it automatically calculates everything out.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds like you're using a lot of the inventory functionality beyond just the typical fleet management and automating PM. So before we kind of dive into the Q&A here, that's the last slide. I figure I'll ask another question. It kind of goes back to slide 1. I know you have roughly around 10 technicians. Is labor productivity or efficiency a big portion to your operations? Are you all kind of utilizing that today to help with any of those kind of things?
Yeah, we do. All the maintenance techs, basically, as with most maintenance techs today, have a PC at their bay. So those work orders are automatically generated to each of them, and allows them to type it in as they do it, instead of writing on a piece of paper and then that paper getting destroyed by dirt, oil, or grimy hands. They're able to kind of enter that in as the process goes of repairing or performing a PM on a vehicle. So that has saved them some time as far as walking back and forth to the office, or lost work orders and then trying to have to remember, or parts missing. Same way as if they start entering that they need parts and the parts are out of stock, it lets them know it's out of stock, so they can follow up with the parts warehouse manager and see what the ETA is on it.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys got no pun intended, but a well-oiled machine going on here with everything going on for your fleet operations. I know I've asked a lot of questions here, but to kind of get to this last slide here, I figured now would be a great time. And again, first off, appreciate everyone joining us today, but want to leave the rest of the half an hour we got here to answer any questions that the audience might have.
Yeah, thanks to both of you guys for the great discussion. As Derek mentioned, we do have some time remaining, so I'll go ahead and throw those questions out to you guys. And then, of course, to our audience, please, throw your questions in the questions box, and we'll try to address them as best as we can. So Let's go with our first question we have here, and it is, what if I have different user types that need access to different things within the program?
I can go ahead and answer this one. I know, kind of going back to even what Crit said, there's unlimited amount of user groups within this system here. So whether it's, the technicians, part managers, department heads, admins, super admins, there really is no limit to what you can set up or how you set it up. So endless options to accomplish what you need and make it as a simple user interface as possible when it comes to different security levels and user groups.
All right, thank you. This next question is for Crit. So what sort of major decisions have you been able to make more confidently with having all of your data in one place?
I think that it's put us on a better path as far as long-range forecasts for replacements of vehicles. It's allowed us to capture the data and find out what our high problem childs are to get them addressed faster or prevent things from failing or running to fail, basically. Since we've been able to kind of capture that data and look at our fleet from a very high level, through some of the different people in my group, we've came up with a pretty good replacement program schedule, and it's kind of based off the data that we're able to capture in collective data.
Great. I also think this next question is for you, Crit. Would you say it was hard to learn how to use a fleet management software?
No, not really. I mean, most computer programs take a little bit of a learning curve of finding out if you put information in box A, does it affect box R? Once you got kind of involved and started entering the data that on a day-to-day basis, especially with the fleet, you kind of learn the quirks. I don't think it was hard by any means. No harder than any other new program once you start getting into it.
Great, thank you. This next question that came in asks, how do I get old data into a fleet management software?
Great question. Sort of similar thing we did here with CEG actually is we've got anything from free import templates that help get a list of standard data in there, like your assets, inventory, vendors, employees, and of course there are options that we can actually provide that help with getting historical data in. So if you're maybe saying you're looking for the last 10 years of all the work order history done on all vehicles, that is something that can be accomplished. It kind of just comes down to what we've seen in the past with bringing in historical data is how accurate is that data or how good is it? Because with any system, bad data in is garbage in, garbage out is what I'm trying to say. So as long as the data is clean and cut and comes in, it should be good and acceptable when it comes to reporting and helping out all in the long term.
Great. Next question we have here is there any way to help determine when assets need to be replaced?
Great. Do you want to kind of, I'll let you answer your portion to it, and then I've got a piece to say, but I'm sure the audience is probably more curious to hear about, I know you talked about it a little bit, but maybe you want to dive into that a little bit more about the asset replacement piece?
Yes, there is. Because when you enter in a new asset or older assets, you kind of enter those parameters of age, cost, when you purchase the vehicle, and all of that. And we don't currently utilize it just because of what we're currently doing as far as our long-range forecast. But there is a module that they have that you can enter in all that information and grade your vehicle upon every PM or service as far as appearance, and it will give you a forecast of when vehicles need replaced or when you're looking to have them replaced.
Crit, you hit the hammer on the nail of actually what I was going to say next. So, yep, exactly what Crit was saying. In addition to what he's already doing, there's modules in there that help forecast further and give you more analytics. And this is actually a standard practice that I know APWA has to offer and what we've done with other agencies. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're really looking to kind of dive into those analytics of better replacement for vehicles and pieces of equipment.
Great. So we have the next question here. It asks, what kinds of software can be integrated with collective data?
Great question. I know Crit already hit on 3 of them that they're doing. So you've got the telematics. So there's a number of standard providers, whether it's Samsara is a hot one, Geotab, Verizon Connect, you name it. You've got the fuel that Crit's already using too, the like Fuelmaster, WEX, all of those, Voyager, and then there's other ones that collective data has kind of offered. And I'm sorry, I missed one other one, the Active Directory, the single sign-on to help eliminate duplicate passwords and one form method to get into all your systems. But beyond all of those, there are other solutions collective data takes on as far as like an integration, and that's I'm kind of keeping it broad here. So if you're thinking about a new fleet system, and maybe there's a financial software, other administrative softwares that you would want to integrate with your fleet platform. I know we've done ones in the past, like Tyler Munis, Central Square has come up, SAP we've done. So any kind of software, as long as there's like APIs. I know that's a little bit more technical, but if you got your IT folks with you, I know they can help you out. But there's a way to push and pull data with just about any system. We just need to have a good understanding of what that data is to be able to bring into our system. Then, of course, if there's anything you'd want to take out of the fleet management software to pass along to one of those systems, that's definitely doable as well.
Great, thank you for that one. I also think this next one's for you, Derek. Does the software integrate with tablets or other hardware? And if so, which brands best support this integration?
That's a great question. So any piece of hardware that has a web browser or connectivity to the internet, that is something we can work with. The preferred one that we do work with is Zebra. We're actually a partner with them. We do have some tablets that are the typical recommendation, the SKUs and all that. But if you're interested in learning more, I could definitely pass that along. But there are some standard Zebra tablets that a lot of folks use. But again, just really at the end of the day, any tablet that has internet connectivity, it will support pretty much any browser there, any piece of hardware that has internet.
Great. We have this next question. Does the software have capability to analyze and report on what vehicles are costing for maintenance and when it is time to replace?
Can you repeat that question one more time? You cut out just a little bit for me. I want to make sure I heard it correctly.
Yes. Does the software have capability to analyze and report on what vehicles are costing for maintenance and when it is time to replace?
Okay, yes, it does. It kind of goes back to what part of Crit's already doing, and more importantly, that module there, the asset replacement module. That one actually has it set up where really your department will set it up because everyone's vehicles and departments a little bit different about replacing. But once it hits a certain threshold, there are alerts and reports available that'll tell you that it is time for replacement. And then, of course, there are budget reports too. If you're just looking to forecast in the next 10 years, it will help you in identifying what vehicles potentially need to be replaced as well, with kind of those costs and budget analytics behind it.
Got it. Perfect. Next question we have here is, any option to input the carbon intensity of each fuel used to calculate the carbon footprint of the fleet?
Okay, so any option to input the carbon intensity of each fuel used to calculate the carbon footprint of the fleet. What I can say is with the way our system is, we're very configurable. There are options for you to add in your own fields. While there already are fuel fields, I know what we've actually done with some of the California agencies is we've helped with smog reporting. I don't have the official details of what the agency was actually doing, but I know they have done things that I think align pretty well with what you're looking for. But again, with the configurability of our software, we can pretty much capture anything of what you're looking for and just have a good understanding of what those data points are.
Great, thank you. This next question asks, can a tech order non-stock parts from his station from his parts department?
I'll answer that one, Derek. Yes, he can. We have, parts inventory, unfortunately, for most fleet management people, you could hit tens of thousands if you're trying to log every part. Non-stock parts, when they are needed, there is a way to click what you need and have it go back to your parts department or to whoever your supply chain representative is, stating that it was a non-stock part, and they can order it and handle it from there.
Great, thank you. And finally, we have this next question. Does the software intuitively communicate, or is it compatible with Syntec FuelMaster and PeopleSoft software, where we have invoice billing and timekeeper?
Short answer is yes. If we wanted to get into more details, we could absolutely do it, but we've done the FuelMaster before. We've done the PeopleSoft software. There are standard scripts that we provide of the kind of data that we bring in from that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Well, it looks like that is all of the time that we have for today. But for anyone who asked a question that wasn't answered, we will be following up via email to answer your questions individually. We hope that you all enjoyed today's webinar, and I want to again thank Derek, Crit, and Collective Data for today's presentation. I also want to mention that this webinar will be available on demand on the Government Fleet website at governmentfleet.com/webinars. Thank you all and have a great day.